This is the America-class Landing Helicopter Assault Ship, or LHA. And while it may look like a carrier's little brother, it represents something far more radical. Today, we're diving deep into why the America-class isn't just a carrier in disguise. It's a completely new category of warship that's reshaping how America projects power across the globe. But we'll also examine the trade-off and controversies that come with this bold design. Because understanding both its strengths and limitations is crucial to grasping its true role in modern naval warfare. Before we get into the technical details, let's address the elephant in the room. Why does this distinction even matter? Because understanding what the America class really is and what it isn't give us insights into how naval warfare is evolving, how the Marine Corps is transforming, and why the future might favor distributed operations over concentrated naval power. Let's start with why the confusion even exists in the first place. When the USS America steams into port, the visual impact is undeniable. At 257 meters long and displacing over 45,000 tons, it's genuinely massive. That flight deck stretches from bow to stern, creating that distinctive flat-top silhouette. And to anyone who sees it, it screams aircraft carrier. But here's where things get interesting. That flight deck isn't just similar to a carrier's by accident. It was deliberately designed to handle the same high-performance aircraft. The America class can operate F-35B Lightning II fighters. These are modified variants of the same stealth aircraft family that fly from the Ford and the Nimitz-class carriers. It can launch and recover MV-22 Osprey tilt-rotor transport aircraft, AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters, and UH-1Y Venom utility helicopters. From a distance, watching flight operations on an America-class LHA looks identical to watching them on a supercarrier. The island superstructure sits on the starboard side. It houses the same sophisticated radar systems, communications equipment, and flight control facilities you'd find on larger carriers. The deck itself is coated with the same thermally resistant materials. These are designed to withstand the scorching heat of vertical landing F-35Bs. Even the aircraft elevators and hangar bay arrangements follow similar principles to those found on traditional carriers. So, if it looks like a carrier, operates like a carrier, and launches similar aircraft as on a carrier, why isn't it just called a small carrier? Because that visual similarity masks a fundamentally different design philosophy. One that becomes clear when you understand what's missing and what's being prioritized instead. And here is where the America class story gets truly fascinating and frankly controversial. The first two ships in the class, the USS America and USS Tripoli, were built without something that had been considered absolutely essential to amphibious warfare for decades: a well deck. For those unfamiliar, a well deck is essentially a large, floodable compartment in the stern of an amphibious warship. It's where these air-cushioned landing craft, these massive hovercraft, are stored and launched. It's where amphibious assault armored vehicles operate from. For generations of Marines, the well deck was the gateway from ship to shore, the literal bridge between the Navy's ability to reach a coastline and the Marine Corps' ability to fight on land. Removing the well deck wasn't an oversight or a cost-cutting measure. It was a deliberate, strategic choice. One that reflected a fundamental reimagining of how amphibious operations would be conducted in the 21st century. The space that would traditionally house a well deck was instead allocated to expanded aviation facilities. Larger hangar bays, more aviation fuel storage, enhanced maintenance spaces, and improved aircraft handling systems. This decision sparked intense debates within military circles. Critics argue that without traditional amphibious capabilities, the America-class couldn't truly support Marine Corps operations. How could you conduct an amphibious assault without the ability to land armored vehicles directly on a beach? How could you establish a beachhead without hovercraft carrying heavy equipment? But the designers had a different vision entirely. They weren't just removing capabilities. They were trading traditional amphibious warfare tools for something potentially more powerful, although undeniably more controversial. The ability to project Marine Corps power hundreds of miles inland without ever approaching a hostile coastline. Whether this trade-off was worth it remains a subject of heated debate within military circles. To understand why this trade-off made sense, we need to examine how the nature of warfare has fundamentally changed. Look at the last major amphibious operations of World War II and the Korean War. In those conflicts, success often meant establishing a foothold on enemy shores, building up supplies and personnel on captured beaches, and then pushing inland with overwhelming force. But that approach assumes an enemy can't effectively target large concentrations of troops and equipment. In the modern era, with satellite surveillance, precision-guided munitions, and increasingly sophisticated missile systems, attempting a traditional amphibious assault against a peer adversary would likely result in catastrophic losses. Consider the challenges of operating against advanced adversaries with extensive anti-ship missile systems, underwater mines, and the ability to monitor vast areas of the ocean. A traditional amphibious group approaching within range of these defenses would face withering fire, long before Marines could establish any meaningful presence on shore. The America-class offers a completely different approach. Instead of getting close to deliver troops and equipment, it stays far offshore, potentially hundreds of miles away, and projects power through aviation. An F-35B Lightning from an America-class LHA can strike targets over 600 miles from the ship. An NV-22 Osprey tilt rotor can carry Marines over 350 miles without refueling. Suddenly, the ship doesn't need to approach hostile coastline at all. This isn't just about range, it's about unpredictability. Although critics argue it comes at the cost of staying power, traditional amphibious operations require significant time to plan, coordinate, and execute. The enemy can observe preparations, predict landing sites, and concentrate defenses accordingly. But aviation-based operations from an America class can be launched with minimal warning to target across vast areas, making defensive preparations far more difficult. The question remains whether this approach can actually seize and hold territory in the way that traditional amphibious forces can. Now let's get into the technical details that make the America class so effective at its aviation-centric mission. The flight deck might look similar to a carrier's, but it's actually been specifically optimized for the unique challenges of operating STOVL aircraft. That's short takeoff, vertical landing aircraft. The F-35B creates tremendous challenges during vertical landing operations. Here's the thing. Unlike conventional aircraft that touch down with forward momentum, The F-35B hovers above the deck. It uses powerful lift fan and redirected engine exhaust. This creates temperatures exceeding 1700 degrees Fahrenheit directly beneath the aircraft. The America-class flight deck uses specialized heat-resistant coatings and reinforced steel structures to handle this extreme thermal stress repeatedly throughout the day. But it's not just about surviving the heat. The hangar bay has been enlarged compared to previous amphibious ships. This allows the America-class to carry up to 20 F-35Bs or a mixed complement of different aircraft types. The aviation fuel storage had been significantly expanded, enabling sustained flight operations without frequent replenishment. This is crucial when operating at extended ranges where supply ships may not be readily available. The aircraft maintenance facilities represent another major advancement. The America-class's maintenance base allows for basically everything, from routine inspection to the replacement of key components. This means onboard aircraft can remain operationally ready without having to return to shore-based facilities. Perhaps more importantly, the America-class's internal structure has been optimized for the short turnaround of aircraft. The positioning of weapon storage, fuel systems, and maintenance areas. All of this allows for quick rearming and refueling of aircraft between sorties. The island superstructure houses the integrated air defense systems, advanced radar arrays, and communication equipment that rivals what you'd find on aircraft carriers. The ship can simultaneously control air traffic, coordinate with other naval units, and provide command and control for marine units operating ashore, all the while defending itself against air and surface threat. Despite the logic behind the aviation-focused design, the operational experience and feedback from the Marine Corps led to significant changes. With the third ship in the class, the USS Bougainville, designated the LHA-8, marked a return to hybrid capabilities. By reintroducing a well deck, albeit a smaller one than found on previous amphibious ships. Was this admission that the original concept was wrong? Or does it reflect the reality that different missions require different capabilities? While the aviation-centric approach works well for certain scenarios, particularly those involving operations against sophisticated adversaries, there remain situations where traditional amphibious capabilities are essential. Humanitarian disasters, for instance, often require the ability to transport heavy equipment, supplies, and vehicles directly to shore. Partner nation training exercises may focus on traditional amphibious techniques. Even in high-intensity combat, there may be situations where establishing a physical presence on land requires more than just aviation assets. The compromise solution reduces the ship's aviation capacity somewhat. The Bougainville carries less aircraft than the America or the Tripoli, but it provides the flexibility to conduct traditional amphibious operations when required. This evolution demonstrates that the America class isn't a rigid platform. It's an adaptable concept that can be tailored and modified to meet changing operational needs. The America class plays a crucial role in what the Navy calls distributed maritime operations, a strategic concept designed to address the challenges of operating against advanced adversaries in contested environments. Traditional naval operations often relied on concentrating powerful capabilities in a few high-value platforms. Carrier strike groups built around massive supercarriers that could dominate large parts of the ocean. But concentration creates vulnerability. A single carrier strike group, while incredibly powerful, represents a lucrative target for enemy submarines, missiles, and naval strike bombers. Losing even one supercarrier would significantly impact American naval capabilities in an entire theater of operations. Distributed maritime operations spread capabilities across multiple platforms, creating a more resilient and flexible force structure. Instead of relying solely on one or two carrier strike groups, a theater commander might deploy multiple America-class LHAs, each capable of independent operations or coordination with other units. This approach makes targeting more difficult for adversaries, while providing commanders with more options for responding to developing situations. The America class is particularly well suited to this concept because it has relative affordability, although not without limitations. While a Ford-class carrier costs over $13 billion, an America-class LHA comes in at approximately $3 billion. This cost differential allows the Navy to deploy more platforms, increasing both presence and resilience across global areas of interest. However, this cost savings come with reduced aircraft capacity and operational endurance compared to supercarriers. The smaller size and the different mission profile of the America class makes it suitable for operations in constrained environments, where full carrier strike groups might be too large, too provocative, or simply unable to operate effectively. However, the same smaller size means the America class lacks the overwhelming air power that a supercarrier can better bring to bear in high-intensity conflict. To truly understand the America class, we need to examine how it fits into the Marine Corps' radical transformation under Force Design 2030. The sweeping reorganization represents the most significant change to Marine Corps structure and doctrine since World War II, and the America class is central to making it work. Traditional Marine Corps operations emphasized heavy combined arms formations, built around tanks, artillery, and large infantry units supported by helicopters and close air support. This approach worked well in the conflict of the late 20th and the early 21st centuries, but proved poorly suited to the challenges of operating against peer adversaries in contested environments. Force Design 2030 envisions smaller, more mobile Marine units, equipped with long-range precision weapons and designed to operate in dispersed formations across vast areas. These Marine littoral regiments would use speed and stealth to establish temporary positions on islands or coastal areas, conduct precision strikes against enemy forces, and then relocate before being targeted in return. The America class serves as the perfect platform for supporting these operations. Its aviation capabilities allow it to insert Marine units rapidly across hundreds of miles of ocean. Its command and control systems can coordinate multiple dispersed units simultaneously. Its medical facilities can provide advanced trauma care for casualties from across a wide area of operations. Perhaps most importantly, the America class can support these distributed operations without requiring access to traditional naval bases or airfields. The ship essentially becomes a mobile base of operations, capable of sustaining Marines operating across island chains like those found in the Pacific. This is particularly relevant given that traditional bases and airfields will likely be targeted early in any major conflict. The relationship is symbiotic. Force Design 2030 requires platforms like the America class to be effective. while the America class requires the new Marine Corps structure to justify its existence. The ship's well-equipped machine shops, logistic facilities, and power generation make it valuable for infrastructure support during humanitarian crises. The America class can provide humanitarian assistance while retaining defensive capabilities, crucial when operating in unstable regions where the security situation might deteriorate rapidly. These dual-use capabilities make the America class particularly valuable for building relationships with allied nations. Joint training exercises can focus on humanitarian scenarios while simultaneously demonstrating interoperability in military contexts. Looking towards the future, the integration of unmanned systems represents one of the most significant areas of development. Currently, America-class ships can already operate various unmanned aerial vehicles, but future iterations may be specifically designed to serve as motherships for swarms of autonomous aircraft. The emergence of directed energy weapons, lasers, and high-powered systems could dramatically enhance defensive capabilities. Next-generation tilt-rotor aircraft, with greater range and payload than the current Osprey, could extend the ship's operational reach even further. The modular nature of modern ship design also suggests that future America-class vessels might be even more adaptable than current ships. Modular mission packages could be swapped out depending on operational needs of the specific mission. A drone mothership or a command and control platform. We will see. Perhaps most intriguingly, the America-class concept might influence the design of future carrier vessels, not just in the US Navy, but around the world as well. The lessons learned about aviation-centric amphibious operations, distributed maritime operations, and flexibility could inform the next generation of carrier designs. Designs that blend traditional air superiority missions with amphibious and expeditionary capabilities. So, is the America class just a carrier in disguise? While the visual similarities are undeniable and the aviation capabilities are impressive, the America class represents something far more significant than a smaller, lighter version of a supercarrier. Though it's also not the perfect solution to every naval challenge. It's a radical platform that bridges the gap between traditional amphibious warfare and modern carrier operations. It embodies the transformation of the Marine Corps from a primarily assault-focused force to a distributed and more dispersed organization. Though questions remain about whether this transformation addresses all the potential conflict scenarios, it nevertheless embodies a new approach to amphibious and power projection capabilities. The America class is unique because it doesn't try to be a supercarrier. Instead, it creates an entirely new category of warship optimized for the specific challenges of naval warfare in the 21st century. Against peer and near-peer adversaries. But, like any specialized platform, it excels in some areas while accepting limitations in others. Its flexibility, affordability, and dispersed firepower make it well suited to distributed warfare. However, in scenarios requiring sustained air superiority or overwhelming firepower, the supercarriers retain advantages that the America class cannot match. So, it's a matter of deploying the right assets to the right situation. The next time you see an America class LHA and think small carrier, remember what you've learned today. You're looking at the future of American power projection, disguised as something familiar but more radical in its true purpose.